Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So look, in this one, we're going to try to predict who the New York Jets are going to be signing this upcoming free agency period. Also, let me know down below in the comment section who you think the Jets are going to be bringing in as well. I love having this discussion. It should be fun. So with that being said, let's jump in. So just something to keep in mind as we're talking about these players here. The Jets right now are a top 2 team in available cap space, somewhere around the range of $67 million to $71 million. That's a lot of cap space, all right? This is before cuts as well. We've heard talks about possibly cutting Jamison Crowder. That would save around $10 million. Henry Anderson probably going to be cut, doesn't fit the system. That's another $8 million that the Jets could have, all right? So we have a lot of available cap space. Everything is still kind of up in the air as far as official numbers are concerned. They actually just set the floor recently to, I think it was 180 million. So it should be interesting, but don't fret anything. The Jets have a lot of space. So let's start with the defensive side of the football first. We have a lot of vacancies on this side of the football. We obviously have a brand new defensive scheme. Let's go position by position here. Let's start with the corners. I think the first player that the Jets are going to be bringing in, super obvious here, Richard Sherman from the San Francisco 49ers. I envision, I don't know, maybe a 2-year contract worth anywhere from $10 to $15 million. Obviously, Sherman's 33 years old. He's dealt with that. He's had that major injury, but he fits the system. He knows the system. He loves Robert Saleh. He's produced in the system. He's been with Saleh in Seattle and in San Francisco. It almost just seems like this. It's too perfect of a fit. I feel like this would be one of those moves where if the Jets were to bring Richard Sherman in, it would be more so focused on him being a coach on the field, right? Just an extension of the Robert Saleh defensive coaching staff. I mean, Richard Sherman's a veteran corner in this league. He's 33 years old. He's built a Hall of Fame career playing in the same exact system. He knows what it takes. He knows what it looks like. He's won a bunch of games. He has been that defensive leader for, I mean, since when? 2015, 2014? He's done it for a long time. I don't think the expectation for Sherman would be, okay, we need you to be a top 5 corner to go lock down Davante Adams and Julio Jones. It would be more so, okay, you're going to be a starting productive outside corner, but we need you to be the veteran leader. We need you to set the tone. Teach the young guys. Make sure everywhere or every player is where they need to be for this defense to have success. And I feel like at this point in Sherman's career, we've seen a couple of bidders, right? The Las Vegas Raiders might be interested. The Cleveland Browns might be interested. It's pretty safe to say Sherman won't be back with San Francisco next season. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I feel like the stars are just perfectly aligned for Sherman to join the New York Jets. The next cornerback that I feel like the Jets will be bringing in is another San Francisco 49er, K'Waun Williams. I'm thinking a 2 to 3 year contract worth anywhere from like $9 to $12 million. K'Waun Williams, I mean, of course he's a slot corner, right? That nickel cornerback, and that position doesn't get paid as much as these outside guys, obviously. But you look at what he does for the San Francisco 49er defense. It was imperative. I mean, you listen to coaches rave about Williams, peers, right? His players. You could search up interviews with Richard Sherman raving about K'Waun Williams, right? The stuff that he does at that slot position it's crucial for the Niners on defense. Right now, he has battled injuries and whatnot, and you're looking at this position right now for the Jets. I mean, Brian Poole, 1-year contract. Are they going to bring him back? I don't know. If it comes down to Brian Poole or K'Waun Williams, 2 really good nickel corners, I think the edge will go to Williams because of that defensive system fit and that coach-to-player relationship that's already formed. With Poole, there isn't. Poole obviously coming from Atlanta. He's been with the Jets for the last couple of seasons. So I think at the end of the day, K'Waun Williams' chances of landing in New York are pretty high as opposed to other teams out there, especially the 49ers, who I feel like is a team right now that just needs to get healthy. I don't think that's a team that should be throwing a lot of money at players that have struggled to stay on the field, if you will. So I think Richard Sherman and K'Waun Williams at the cornerback position for the Jets make a lot of sense. I also expect the team to be targeting the cornerback position in the draft as well. So two free agents at corner. Let's move on to the next position. Next up, outside linebacker. This is a very important position for this Robert Saleh 4-3 defense, okay? Right now, I feel like the Jets are kind of stuck. We don't really have that surefire outside linebacker that we can rely and count on. I mean, the expectations that are put on outside linebackers in the 4-3 defense as opposed to the 3-4, Greg Williams, Todd Bowles, Rex Ryan, they're completely different, all right? There's not this, no pun intended here, there's not this pressure to get after quarterbacks, right? There's not this, you know, this mandate like, okay, you need to get in the backfield, you need to burst around tackles, you need to, you know, do all these creative blitzes or anything like that. It's more so, can you cover? Can you get sideline to sideline quickly? Can you recognize what's happening as far as swing passes, mobile quarterbacks, handoffs to the outside, pitches to the outside, end arounds? Can you cover ground quickly? Can you stop the run? So really, when I'm looking at this position, I don't feel like the Jets have a solid system fit currently on the roster. I think the Jets will be signing Matt Milano from the Buffalo Bills. This is a player right now that I haven't seen one person link to the New York Jets. But when I look at what Milano does, what he's good at, the system that he's coming from, it's an absolutely fantastic fit in this Saleh defense. I feel like Milano can be the Jets version of Fred Warner in San Francisco, a younger, fast outside linebacker that has shown the ability to stop the run, that can cover. I think Matt Milano is a very underrated player. And he's definitely, I don't want to say definitely because we don't know for sure here, but I would say right now the needle is pointing to Milano leaving Buffalo in free agency. Now, I have seen New England, they're the front runner right now, but I wouldn't sleep on Milano joining the New York Jets. I envision a big contract here. I think the Jets would put a lot of responsibility on Matt Milano. I'm thinking 4 years, $50 million, 4 years, $55 million. I think the Jets need that outside linebacker, that Fred Warner, that guy who can wrap up an open field. You can rely on him. He can stay healthy. He can move around from sideline to sideline and make plays. That's something that the Jets don't have, especially with Jordan Jenkins hitting the open markets, not a system fit. What are you going to do? Re-sign Basham and, you know, stand him up at 4-3 and kind of put all your eggs in an unproven basket? I don't know. I think with the available cap space, with the huge vacancy at this position, Matt Milano to the Jets makes so much sense. It's underrated. I get that might not a lot of people would be a huge fan of that, but I think it's kind of one of these, Fred Warner was the unsung hero of that Niners defense. We need that in New York. Next up, defensive end. And I would say right now, outside of quarterback, of course, this is the most important position that the Jets have got to figure out before next season. All right, if you cannot get after quarterbacks with your front four, they will have all day to throw. It will be a long day. It'll be a long afternoon if the Jets cannot sack the quarterback or at least get in the backfield and create some sort of havoc, knock them down, tip passes at the line of scrimmage. It will be a long day. All right, so the Jets, again, we don't have virtually any player on the roster that we can rely on and say, okay, he's good for 8 sacks, he's good for 10 sacks. We have nobody like that on the roster. We need some upgrades. So with that being said, I think the first player that the Jets look at and bring in this free agency at the defensive end spot is Carl Lawson of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's coming off of a season with 5.5 sacks, all right? I get it completely. That's really nothing to write home about, for sure. But when you look at the quarterback hits statistic, he is 32. That's absolutely fantastic. So he's shown the ability to get in the backfield. He can beat tackles consistently. I think right now Carl Lawson is just a sleeping giant. I think all it takes is just getting him in the right situation, getting him in the right system, getting him with the right defensive coaching staff. I feel like the Jets have all three of those things. I think Carl Lawson right now is highly undervalued. No, I'm not saying he's the best pass rusher in the league or anything like that, and I'm projecting a 4-year, $40 million contract, somewhere in that range. It'll be interesting to see what Lawson gets, right, what he commands from the open market, because there's so many pass rushers available, right? Okwara, Yannick Ngakoue, there's so many different guys out there. It'll be interesting to see the level of interest with Carl Lawson, especially because I do feel like he is that traditional 4-3 edge rusher. So I don't really know his exact value, but my I guess prediction would be a 4-year, $40 million, 4-year, $35 million contract. All right, to kind of put it in perspective, the 32 quarterback hits is more. Okay, so Yannick Ngakoue is viewed as this elite pass rusher. He's the best one on the open market. He has the most sacks. Versatile guy, younger guy, right? But if you take Carl Lawson's quarterback hits for last season alone, 32, that's more than Yannick Ngakoue in 2020 and in 2019 combined. All right, so Carl Lawson can get after quarterbacks, bringing them down. Might be a little bit of a different story, but he's shown the ability to beat tackles consistently. Next up, Kerry Hyder of the San Francisco 49ers. Again, much like Richard Sherman, this is a pretty obvious one. Now, my only drawback with Kerry Hyder right now is that I feel like he could demand a high number annually. I feel like what it's going to come down to with the Kerry Hyder contract is years, right? The terms, the length of the deal. I would feel much more comfortable giving Kerry Hyder maybe a 1 or a 2 year contract, where, let's just say for this example, 1 year, 11 mil, maybe 2 years, $24 million contract. I don't feel comfortable, honestly, giving him a 4 or 5 year deal. We've seen contracts like this blow up in teams' faces, where they bring in a pass rusher for a long time. I mean, look at San Francisco with Dee Ford. I've seen a lot of people kind of mock Dee Ford to the Jets, but I just don't really feel like he's a good system fit. He's battled injuries. You could get Dee Ford on a cheaper contract, because he will still be getting paid a handsome sum from the Niners, because they did release him. But I feel like at the end of the day, Kerry Hyder's going to be more sought after. It's up to the Jets. Do they want to spend that money on 2 pass rushers, or do we spend the money on 1 and try to get the best out of somebody on the roster? Do we try to attack this position in the draft? I feel like that's a little risky. Especially because the Jets are picking 2 and then 23. Are you really going to get that premier edge rusher that you can count on at that 23rd overall pick? It's a little questionable, right? Especially with all the vacancies. So with that being said, I could see the Jets shelling out the cash for Hyder on a cheap, I don't want to call it a cheaper deal, but just a shorter deal. So Kerry Hyder, he makes a lot of sense, fits the system, produced under Saleh, 8.5 sacks. He was reliable, high motor guy. I could see the Jets bringing him in. In regards to Dee Ford, Robert Saleh could be under the mindset of, okay, at one point in time, I liked Dee Ford so much that we gave up a 2nd round pick. We extended him to an $85 million contract, and he did not even fit the system. Now I'm with New York. I can get this guy at a discount. But he didn't really produce with San Francisco. He battled with injuries in San Francisco. It's up in the air, but I definitely see the Jets being highly active in the defensive end position. So Carl Lawson for sure, and then it's a toss-up, maybe Dee Ford, but probably Kerry Hyder. Now, last but not least, on the defensive side of the football, we're going to be talking about the safety position. Now, I think Marcus Maye will be back. I just don't think that the Jets are going to be signing him to a long-term deal. He's battled with some injuries in the past. He hasn't played in this system. I do think he fits the system. I think he will be productive, but I feel like Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, they might want that closure with Marcus Maye before, to see him in this system. Before they hand out a 3, 4, 5 year contract. I could be wrong, but that's just my expectation. I think that franchise tag right now looks pretty solid at a 1 year, $11.2 million price tag for the safety spot. Remember, the free safety and strong safety positions are lumped into one as it pertains to that franchise tag, the franchise tag number. So $11.2 million looks solid, especially with the teams out there that we know for a fact have cap space and that will be hunting safeties big time, like the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, keep an eye on Justin Simmons. They might tag him in Denver, but if they don't tag Justin Simmons, I expect him to get a massive deal from Jacksonville or Cleveland. So we'll see how it all plays out, but I think Maye will be back on a franchise tag. Now, really, when we're looking at the strong safety position, this one's kind of up in the air. Bradley McDougald is set at the open market, fits the system, but he's 30. Do they want to bring him back after an unproductive year? I don't know. Ashton Davis is on the roster. We'll see how he fits into the Robert Saleh plans. We could attack this position in the draft, maybe a Paris Ford out of Pitt. We'll see. But I do think that at the end of the day, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas could be saying to themselves, you know what, it's year one of this era. Let me just go get a guy that's available, fits the system, knows the system. I have that player-coach relationship. Jaquiski Tartt from the San Francisco 49ers. 1 year, cheap contract, 1 year, $7 million, 1 year, $8 million. I think Tartt will accept that. Productive, really good player when healthy. when he's on the field, he can wrap up, he can flock to the football, good defensive leader, but he's battled with injuries. For that reason, I don't think he will be back in San Francisco. I think Tartt's market will be a team that has a lot of cap space, that he's a perfect system fit. That's the New York Jets to a T. Okay, so I think it's a 1-year contract because he's not the long-term option at that position. You just simply can't invest multiple years into a guy that has just consistently been hurt all the time. So a 1-year kind of a stopgap at that strong safety position. Again, we'll see what happens, but that's kind of the safety duo that I'm foreseeing in 2021. Marcus Maye at free safety, Tartt at strong safety. Now, flipping over to the offensive side of the football, I would say right now a huge position of need is the guard spot. Joe Thuney from the New England Patriots. This is the big money guy. This is the Jets' big marquee free agent that they bring in. You can argue Brandon Scherff. We'll see. I feel like at the end of the day, his market might be a little too high, and he could be back in Washington next season. With Joe Thuney, I highly doubt that he will be back in New England. And for that reason, I see the Jets going out and spending a 4-year, $60 million contract on Joe Thuney. He's the marquee guy. Finally, the Jets will have an answer at that guard position. Now, it's not a sure thing that Thuney is going to be healthy and he's going to come in and be this amazing guard like he was with New England, but it's a very high chance of that happening. The Jets have the tackle position figured out. Mekhi Becton, incredible. George Fant playing some solid football. I like him at the right tackle position. We'll see what happens with the draft, but the interior, that's where the problem lies. And to have a successful running game, to have a young quarterback produce, whether it's Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, whoever the quarterback is next season, I'm assuming he's going to be younger. He's not going to be a veteran. We need to have protection in the interior of the offensive line. Joe Thuney fills that void, fits the system. We have the money to pay him. He's been productive. He's reliable. I mean, you can't get better than that. So Joe Thuney to the New York Jets, 4 years, $60 million. Next up, the wide receiver position. Let's face it, we need help. We need bodies. We need talent. Outside of Denzel Mims and Jamison Crowder, this position it's a disaster. The offense last year, it was unwatchable. It was horrid. We need to get better at this position. We've heard rumors that the Jets were interested in Will Fuller, Juju Smith-Schuster, so we know that there's some level of interest from Joe Douglas and Mike LaFleur to upgrade this spot. Now, I feel like the wide receiver position is going to be heavily targeted in the draft. Maybe that second first-round pick, maybe in the second or third round. I think we're going to load up on wideouts for sure. But I do think we're going to be in the market for 1 to maybe 2 wide receivers specifically, but in this scenario, I have the Jets going with Curtis Samuel, signing him up to maybe a 3-year contract worth anywhere from $10 to $11 million annually. So maybe like a 3-year, $33 million deal. I could see it happening. Great system fit. He's not going to take snaps away from a Jamison Crowder or a Denzel Mims or anything like that. He's a guy that you can use in end-arounds, right? Reverses, screen passes. He creates separation. He's just a guy right now who you can just get him the football and back off and watch him work, essentially. It wouldn't necessarily be like an Allen Robinson type of signing, a Kenny Golladay, a Chris Godwin, where they're going to be getting the majority of the targets. They're going to command double teams. It's not going to be a situation like that. He's just essentially going to be an offensive piece, an offensive weapon. We've seen him dominate on the ground as well, which makes Curtis Samuel such a versatile player. I think he would be an excellent fit for this Mike LaFleur offense. In regards to the Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, and Kenny Golladay situations, I think it might be a hurdle for, number one, they have to get past for the franchise tag first. All 3 guys have been rumored to be tagged. Once they get past that, there's going to be so many suitors for all of those different players. So I feel like the Jets, with so many different needs, especially on defense, they're going to sign what they definitely need on defense, and then they're going to address the rest through the draft. I just don't know if Joe Douglas, if this front office is ready to shell out a 4-5-year contract to an Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay or Chris Godwin. So in this scenario, I'm going with Curtis Samuel on a 3-year deal worth somewhere in the range of $10 to $11 million annually. Now, finally, we've reached the running back position. Okay, I think this position, for me personally, if I was running the New York Jets, I actually like what we have. I like Josh Adams. I like Ty Johnson. I like where we're picking in the draft as well. If you're sold on a guy like Harris or Etienne, we can definitely pick him with that 23rd pick, with that first pick in the second round. We'll see. We have a pretty good chance of selecting one of those guys. If you want one of those big name college running backs. If not, you can always target like a Chuba Hubbard in round 3 or round 4 or something. That's the route that I specifically would take. But given San Francisco's history on how they use running backs, how many running backs that they've had, how many running backs that they deploy on a week-to-week basis, the injuries that the Niners running backs have had over the years, it's clear, it's evident that the Niners like to load up. Kyle Shanahan and Mike LaFleur like to load up on this position. Mike McDaniel, of course, as well. So, two guys specifically in the open market, I feel like the Jets could get for a relatively cheap contract for a depth move. Matt Breida or Tevin Coleman. Okay, I could see either one of those guys getting brought in by New York. Again, I like the running back room as is. I definitely think it needs one more piece. Whether it be, I don't, and I've seen a bunch of rumors that the Jets are going to be interested in Aaron Jones. I just don't see that happening. We just got out from, we just signed Le'Veon Bell to a big contract, didn't know how to use him, just a complete nightmare. Of course, we can't base our future moves off of fears that have happened in the past, but Aaron Jones to the Jets, I don't see it happening. If the Jets do go running back, I see it being a much, much cheaper deal, like a 1-year, $3 million contract with Matt Breida, or something along those lines. Tevin Coleman, same style of thing, maybe 1-year $5 million deal. So I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who do you think the Jets are going to sign? Who do you want them to sign? It's going to be a fun discussion down below. Cannot wait to hear it. I know this is a super, super long video here, so I appreciate you guys sticking to the end. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for sticking with this channel. And as always, go Jets.